Ye Ensa TV. Oboroso bubu.
Umurigereria Ensa TV nubwo tukubwa kabere gucyo mweri asumutie nyoyega ugatano na kabere nukugenda kwari buna kwagenderero bya asiri tukorigimwa asikereke mo keria kware gokora suyoria uringa subunchiriri ase emirimo yago yorengase sabari nabo yokende gyansikeri kware gokora nabo igo no kugenda kwani buna nogenderete kubwatya merobiri yonsi Ensa kurubaga kite chinsa 12 cheke mambi gwikira boni gana ndi yaragire Ensa Eyemo ya Afrika ya mucha ngakiuka enyorama ya asenchira yubwekira nubuna aberega kwari gani gwasoboti kubabono irikwene kiabuna nkwe manyora mange aliagenderete ayaitire nabo ayarache kubwatya tusanga subwamo wetera senchira ye mutandao gwekerera sensemo ya YouTube Ensa TV nabo nambe mawasiliano nigere notisano na ibere isano na isatu isano na isatu isano nemo isano nemo isano nemo isano nemo isano nemo isatu igo chaka gutuma ujumbe yago enyenge obotko bwa bono nabo igo nyuma ya mayose buna togendera tasobotko bwa bono nigo trachi kugenda ye mase ye mwika enyumba nene yoburayi bwense abo astrache konyore nkwana yomurayi bwense uyugucho kwana amurense ase obotuko obuye korende ase bono tiango tranyora amaya ase enchira yobwekera nwasomo chakaro ase enchira yoko yachutia
2022 jebuna birunga ya supported yumugako musketongi 2027 tigagutanga ya birundu narabunga ujo bondo marenga mapema wachakire kumyo ira na nyomba acha tiyonye gucheruka uje gukumira nabantu butuko
Richard Tonge bori gwe gotia gotanga gesiasa na gotigara ase kiama kya Jubilee
ifakti twabeire musuta matuka mange sana kesabaga turite transforme ya maegaga ya erirange mitinye tatemigni kende nkeyo no ena asobe to kujaji tisimi atayo yako yositi tinga buna bone tingerera yo mwana mitumasira no toka ndatwasera bona abantu bakanda pakito lumwino bati kosiyoro
abamenyi bekenyoro kya Nyambogo West Mugirango ko basigika batabwatie transformer.
We have to sign because ukiangalia timu kama Ruthimitu will be coming to regionals and we're going to have a tough derby.
Leo nimekuwa na trials preparing for the new season 26-27 ndio kitu menileta hapa.
Ekerabu kia Msete FC kwarigania mariganio yoko banyora bagosoria bayabusi we season yenye ye league FKF ekerengo kia regions. Karibu tasanga asobwamo Eriane Ishmael Mogere asomo chakano aborokiwe 30 na babere abo bakorete amatemu abo buya na goeta kogenda ase university au ime yense ya Kenya kurwase skuru ya secondary bacho ime ward ya Gesusu ensemu ye bunge ya Nyaribali Masaba nigo ritkulia lero bairwe biego au na kuganirwa mayachinga kibakogenda university cho nigo abakwanilia abo bakoragwa na daktari Stella Nyega kure university ya Kisii omorokiwa mwanene we skuru yo Douglas Moroti egati abande baganirie aborokia gose aborokiwa kubeko mukiana gotiga gosamba chiskuru asense muyende nigaba iburi boigo baburige gosemia abana babo chinga kibare asumutimo ko buno mosekito petwel machiri agotumenya sobwime
Nasomoiga bwechisemi nabo igokoba ebewa aboroke 32 abo bakoreta matemo abuya na bageta kogenda University Mensa ya Kenya meskuru ya secondary yibachi gotoke ward y'Ichuni bunge Nyaribali Masabe county ya Kisii richkoria rero.
Let me say we have had a successful education day today, and I would like to congratulate our students who are joining university, that is the class of 2025, and wish them well as they prepare for their own future.
Okwa nabariki maiga yomoyegoyo nigo yomobwa bagende besiko Dr. Stella Nyega akorwase University ya Kisii orengentenera yomokonyi bo chancellor wa university yo Professor Nathan Ogechi aganira borokiwa abo bakogenda chi university kobeko mokia na koirania kobako gochase amate.
Today was the prize giving day for Ivacho High School. We had 32 students joining various universities in this republic, and it was a joyous moment for parents and students. We also took the time to encourage the current crop of candidates, and we hope that they'll do well in their exams. I was representing the Vice Chancellor, Kisii University, who was not able to come. He has supported this school and he also sent his support, and he wants to encourage young people to make good of their talents, academic prowess, and also to make sure that they give back to community. Once they complete their studies, they should be able to come and be meaningful contributors of things in society, participating in mentoring others, and also being young men and women of good morals and example to those who come after them.
Omorokyo monene bweskuru yo Douglas Moroti nigo nera boriria boibuli go kwandira bana babo chinga kichibara sumotimoko eriko twara chimbwa chingia.
What I would like to inform the parents as we release our students today and others tomorrow, and the previous schools have also closed, is that they take time to talk with their children about being obedient, being responsible while at home and while in school, because they are preparing their future.
Mufanye jukumu lenu, watoto wetu, na nyinyi mshughulike vile mnashughulika mpaka tuone watoto wetu wana discipline nzuri.
Mwigo niko Moroti airomo ya borkiwa bubonsi bakoenda chi university kwerenda buya na gusanga chinga kibabwata makongo kubachanda kiberengeryo eryo tubako irusia obomoyo.
For those who are joining university, our last year's candidates and candidates from all over the country, we encourage them. There are several challenges, but in any circumstance, let them give dialogue a chance, be it their families, be it the university, be it the schools. Dialogue should be given a chance, and even when they have their social problems, they should not think about taking their lives, because we must be resilient in whatever we do and try to be a solution of problems and not creating more pain to our parents when they have invested in us.
Asibiga boroki wababoriwe tubairetera margerio chinga kibago samba chiskuru.
Watoto wenzangu na wauliza, kuchoma hata nyumba yenu nyumbani ni mbaya, ni laana. Nasema mtafanya hivi, lakini nasema msilete hiyo laana, msichome chochote, kwa sababu baadaye itakuja letea wewe mwenyewe laana hata wakati utakuwa mzee. Kwa hivyo tulinde shule zetu.
Kuripoteria Ensoko TV kurasi skuru yibache kutoka Imebunge ya Nyaribali Masabe, kaunti ya Kisii, Chepethwell Machin.
Asense moyende abarimi bekemergie chaya season ya 10 nigo baborigwe n'aba director babo kubwatesia baraibe board ekora factory ya Sang'anyi erigo semeroberio yekemergie chaye nagendere na guikirana buyabune bwenderete aya nigo bayakwanire ime ya mashini ye chaye ya Sang'anyi chinga kibarenge asomuroberio bo bogosanga n'abanyakomiti kurwa chitundu bari ao chezoni ya 10 erigo semani buna bagokora oboremi nabo igo chinchira bagukinia rigesari chaye Vincent Monda namange.
Amatuka bwangoiga niga kemerike chaye kyarorekane gutwara libera linyinge ligetanaine igentabo igo kyare tukwemurunganio konene abande bagoteba kemerike nigo keroche gusira korinde asesoni ya namba 10 niga baraya bababo bagoteba sechiro ali Mombasa nigo bagendete gokoria buya umwaka oyo nonya babwate ebitange binge
intutogo kwano soni 10 kyara konye twarenge Ensaria pero intutogo kwano sana ase market yani kerongo kwana yonga ki ikina kikibesa quality Mombasa egendo bakoran quality bao bakwana kibese kinyinge kibese ikina ikigo jarai asomoremi
abaraya banigo bagoteba mbarene ganga yo kurwanire ego senkegenda ya abwase babo
mwale gwanja tobaba to abantu mbale mutu wake kubabwa se minjire banyorire abantu bali babegete kyanga kindabu bali tokoroka management bali professionals ingaki in fact in the world basikire
abali mbito basanganye abantu twanje tubolimo nchiterangu ngaine yote abamade mukwanira mangana maya yani bulimo bwanza bebondo bwansi ntinyanje tote byabantu bane yarente factory into your district we share that ekero moko nyara mangana kurua saa baraibaino karaya tumiango karaya tarira tokore mirimo.
We are doing well in the market na ino support ya director waino ingale toroji
abalimi baria barorekania kobogeria chae kurosa mashini niga aba director bagoteba ekenigo kere getange kenene gochia sechi factory abwase bagoteba getambo kere kenigo gekoretera omurimi asare nene
echae yaito yatarokire yakire multinational kende kia onkeyo egento kia okaro gioka ne gisiringi kiri mwaya ni makora una kwae guga mbali geti na omwana baroseti para mbaga gitutundu bali mbali gokorwanira kende mbagocha na muchango na matanga mbagocha bono wa family chae yaito echae yaito kere factory ya rusiri mwatan 2 million yani no mwarusiri mwarege 20 million last year omwasi ekerete bono 17 ari 17 kebirigo na arenge 17 anasi ekerete 15 ose ko calculate kibeze chiko genda siko kibwena tego jase mure asetore iyo ni hasara kubwa na kikiagara te kabarasi matotare tunyurani gosiratore
chinsemo chiabarimi geteni gobarera bwankoiga igoro yoko na chwa kwelimi gosemus cha content ase chikiro egento boigo abaraya bagoteba negetambukero kiarenge kego kiania chia sara chinyinge ase chi factory
correction ekorete ya utani ya 21 igo mokore kodi rose every month, every day, every week. At the end of the year, igo mowade was 5 million kilos mwareta the less in the factory ogachiaka ni robo musara na endo chiaka ni bonus no akane bonus bi yes so njepuna nyankoba eto kwikaranza na bari bana na batebiyeke tokorei ntuno otule moje marore gap onye na akonyore bisinyi komi bono akonyore komi na isano gosemerongebe
egati abalimi baria baikirana ika nigo na baru barure birengerere byabo na baigo kuboria barayi bane kingo chali bare omulimi buya
nandege twara tabanye ne jisiringi chiro chibere KDD etigeta kork etamente
ase obulimi bwaitu mbuya bagendererete lakini egento kere magega obwoyo koruba begete case kotini ekibono kiaria dirime chano nanga bono obwoyo twabanyorire mutienyo yosaba twachaka no mwaka
sibesa tomentwe ekiagera einere gangene nentu twachore tunenje buna tuna munya komiti ndwanero muremi one masindano
Vincent Monda Ensoko TV
Arena yo moncho murireria asebono eyamase yamonigo tokogenda ase nyombe nene yobrai bwense aso muchio Nairobi abwo ase torachiko monyora eyamase masagendrete korwa enkwana yaye ase obotuko oboiga abwo asagendrete korwa enkwana yaye buna oligereti ase etibi yago ase obotuko bwabono eyamase yamo wekase nyombe nene yobrai bwense elitoranyora enkwana yomurai bwense
of millions of their citizens out of poverty and transform their economies into globally competitive manufacturing and investment hubs. The third wave began in the early 90s. Vietnam, India, Bangladesh, and Cape Verde embraced reforms, expanded exports, attracted investments, and fundamentally changed the trajectory of their economies within one generation. All these major developments, but we did not take full advantage of them. In 1965, for example, Kenya and South Korea each had a GDP per capita of approximately $110. Today, South Korea exceeds $36,000 compared to ours of $2,400, a multiple of 15. In 1980, when China began its economic reforms, its GDP per capita stood at approximately $200. Kenya's was then $450. China overtook us and today has a GDP per capita exceeding 14,000 US dollars, a multiple of 6 compared to ours. When Vietnam embarked on economic reforms in the early 90s, Vietnam's income per person was roughly half ours. Today, Vietnam's GDP per capita stands at approximately 5,000 US dollars, more than double ours. Bangladesh has followed a similar remarkable path. Even more sobering is the fact that we are now being challenged by countries much closer to home. Ghana's GDP per capita is about 3,200 US dollars, roughly 30% higher than ours. While Zimbabwe, after enduring decades of profound economic hardship, has recovered to a GDP per capita of about 3,000 US dollars, now slightly exceeding ours. Question we must ask ourselves candidly and honestly is why other nations have fulfilled so much of their potential while we have repeatedly fallen short. More importantly, what must we now do differently to ensure that the next chapter of Kenya's development story is fundamentally different from the last? Fellow citizens, there is, however, some good news. We can, we must, and we shall together get it right this time round. History rarely announces the arrival of defining moments. Yet there are occasions when the forces shaping the world create opportunities that come perhaps once in a generation. I believe we are on the threshold of one such historic moment. I believe so for 4 compelling reasons. First, 4 years ago, our priority as a nation was not to imagine Kenya's next chapter. It was to survive global economic turbulence, restore stability, rebuild confidence, and place our economy back on a firm foundation. Together, we achieved that. We have restored macroeconomic stability. We have stabilized our currency. We have rebuilt our foreign exchange reserves to over 15 billion US dollars, providing 6.5 months of import cover. Inflation has fallen. Borrowing costs have declined. Investor confidence has returned. Last year, for example, Kenya attracted a record $3.2 billion in foreign direct investment, more than double the amount recorded in 2022. The 2025 IMD World Competitiveness Ranking placed Kenya as the most competitive economy in Africa, reflecting the confidence our reforms have restored. Because we have restored stability, rebuilt investor confidence, and laid a firm foundation for our economy, now is the perfect opportunity for Kenya to begin shaping the next phase of our national development. That is why, in my State of the Nation address last year, I challenged us to begin thinking beyond the immediate demands of today and to start imagining a futuristic roadmap for our nation. It was a call to prepare and an invitation to begin building the institutions that will support Kenya's long-term transformation. That journey has already begun. We have already established the National Infrastructure Fund to ensure the investments essential for Kenya's transformation are financed sustainably. It is also why we have established the Sovereign Wealth Fund to preserve and invest the wealth of our nation so that today's prosperity becomes tomorrow's opportunity, shared fairly between present and future generations. Together, these institutions represent more than new opportunities. They embody a philosophy of nation building that lasting prosperity is built through institutions that outlive governments, inspire long-term investment, safeguard intergenerational wealth, and provide confidence in our economy. The second reason why I believe this is our moment is because our current roadmap is approaching its destination. Vision 2030 has brought us this far, but it is approaching its horizon. It has served Kenya well. It transformed the way we think about national development, provided a common direction, inspired investment, guided policy in the public space, and demonstrated the power of long-term planning. But honesty also requires us to acknowledge that some of its ambitions remain unattained. In several respects, we are still falling short of even the very standards we set out for ourselves. Vision 2030 set a target of Kenya becoming an upper middle income country by 2030. So far, we are off target. This is not a criticism of Vision 2030, nor is it a reason for disappointment. Rather, it is an opportunity to proudly learn from our successes, reflect with honesty on where we have fallen short, and define together Kenya's next long-term vision. The third reason why this is our moment is that the next great wave of economic transformation will, I believe, be African. The world is entering what may become the greatest wave of global economic transformation in the past 6 decades. And for the first time in modern history, its center of gravity is steadily shifting towards Africa. Our continent is the home to the world's youngest and fastest growing population, vast reserves of strategic minerals, immense renewable energy potential, abundant arable land, and rapidly expanding consumer markets. 9 of the world's fastest growing economies are in Africa. And by 2050, 1 in every 4 people on Earth will be African. Increasingly, global investors, manufacturers, innovators, and policymakers are looking to Africa not merely as a continent of future promise, but as the next frontier of global growth and prosperity. While we may not take full advantage of the previous 3 great waves of global transformation, we have a historic moment and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, not just to be part of, but to lead the next transformation. We have positioned Kenya as one of the nations that will define Africa's economic rise. Fourth, and perhaps most profoundly, this conversation is potent because the time has come to fulfill not only the political and governance promise of our Constitution, but also its equally compelling promise of development, national transformation, and shared prosperity. Fellow citizens, the Constitution envisages both a democratic and a wealthy and prosperous nation. Democracy allows us to organize power, protect liberties, and govern ourselves. Through our democratic institutions, our laws and policy reforms, we have steadily transformed that constitutional principle into a proudly democratic national culture. The next chapter of our national transformation journey is to operationalize the Constitution's development charter. The Constitution establishes our national development mandate. It requires us to build a wealthy, economically developed, and prosperous nation, and defines what government must ultimately achieve. A nation that is just, inclusive, and sustainable. A nation where every Kenyan, regardless of circumstance or place of birth, has a genuine opportunity to thrive. Taken together, the provisions of our Constitution reveal something profound. They affirm that the purpose of state power is not simply to administer the affairs of state, but to expand opportunity, promote human dignity, create wealth, and improve the lives of citizens. Development, therefore, is not simply a policy preference of those who govern. It is a constitutional imperative for the governed. While the Constitution's preamble commits us to build a nation founded on human rights, equality, freedom, democracy, social justice, and the rule of law, Article 10 of our Constitution speaks to patriotism, integrity, accountability, and sustainable development as among our highest national values. Moreover, our Constitution in Article 43 guarantees every Kenyan the right to the highest attainable standard of health, accessible and adequate housing, and reasonable standards of sanitation, freedom from hunger, and adequate food of acceptable quality, clean and safe water in adequate quantities, social security, and education. Together, we must ask ourselves what these constitutional guarantees should mean in practice. What should an education system worthy of our constitutional promise look like? What should define accessible and adequate housing for every Kenyan? What kind of health system is required to secure the highest attainable standard of health as is provided for in the Constitution? How do we ensure that no Kenyan experiences the indignity of hunger, and that every family has access to adequate food of acceptable quality? How do we guarantee universal access to clean and safe water, meaningful social protection, and the opportunity for every citizen to live a life of dignity? Above all, what measurable outcomes should demonstrate that we are truly giving practical effect to these economic and social rights as contained in our Constitution? Equally, we have not defined with sufficient clarity what patriotism, equality, social justice, and sustainable development should demand of us as government, as institutions, leaders, or citizens. Yet, these constitutional aspirations cannot fulfill themselves. We must, as a nation, collectively define the standards by which they should be measured and establish a common national development charter for their realization. Until we do so, our development and progress will remain subject to the ebb and flow of political expediency, changing priorities, competing interpretations, and fluid guesswork. A national development charter for the attainment of these noble constitutional imperatives cannot be designed by politicians alone, nor by any single institution, profession, or interest group. It must be shaped by the people of Kenya themselves through an open, inclusive, and honest national conversation. For the Constitution belongs to the people, and so too must the vision that gives it practical expression. They demand the wisdom of our farmers and workers, the ingenuity of our entrepreneurs and innovators, the experience of our professionals and scholars, the moral leadership of our faith communities, the energy of our young people, and the participation of every patriotic citizen who believes in Kenya's future. Such a development charter will succeed when anchored on strong institutions, institutions that enable rather than obstruct, that solve problems rather than multiply, that encourage enterprise rather than frustrate, and that make it easier for people to work, invest, innovate, build, and create wealth. Great nations, fellow citizens, are never built by chance. They are built by design, by discipline, and by deliberate, focused national purpose. Ours should be no exception. National development must never be left to chance or short-term politics. It must be guided by a shared national vision that endures beyond administrations and election cycles. A combination of the robust democratic society we have built and a well-crafted national development charter anchored on the economic and social rights enshrined in the Constitution is the potent ingredient necessary for the quantum leap that will make up for past missed opportunities and take us into the first world nation that we rightfully should be. Fellow citizens, Article 3 of our Constitution places a solemn obligation upon every Kenyan to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution. Every Kenyan. That duty extends beyond merely safeguarding its provisions. It obligates each one of us to build a broad national consensus on the destiny of our republic. The future of Kenya is too important to be left to politicians alone. It must be imagined, shaped, and built by each one and all of us. Patriotism, therefore, is not only measured by what we say about our country. It is also measured by what we contribute to it, what we build for it, and what we protect within it. Once we, as a people, define the national framework for realizing the aspirations in our Constitution, we will have settled the question of our destiny. Thereafter, the true contest of democracy should be about who has the best ideas, the soundest policies, and the best capability to take us there faster, more efficiently, and more inclusively. That is the political competition our nation deserves. This, ladies and gentlemen, is not a theoretical discourse. The decisions we make today will determine whether our Constitution becomes the greatest instrument of our national transformation in our history, or the greatest opportunity we missed. The defining task of our generation, therefore, is to forge a shared national development charter that translates constitutional aspirations into deliberate action, measurable progress, and lasting national transformation. This is how constitutional ideals become possibilities. This is how rights become opportunities. This is how aspirations become achievement. And this is how prosperity becomes lived reality. We must not merely state what our Constitution says. We must fulfill its highest purpose. Fellow citizens, this is the conversation I invite our nation to have. It is not a conversation about producing another government document. It is about forging a new national consensus on the country we intend to become and the standards by which we shall measure our progress. It is about translating constitutional ideals into measurable development outcomes, outcomes into better lives, and better lives into national transformation and shared prosperity. If the defining achievement of those who came before us was to give Kenya a constitution worthy of our aspirations, then the defining responsibility of our generation is to build a nation worthy of that constitution. Over the past several months, I have engaged and sought the counsel of current and former national leaders, of political leaders, scholars, business leaders, faith leaders, professionals, civil society, grassroots representatives, and most importantly, young Kenyans from every part of our republic. Those interactions reinforced one conviction above all: a vision worthy of guiding Kenya for the next generation cannot be written by government. It cannot be crafted by a handful of experts, however distinguished they may be, nor can it emerge from a single institution or political formation. It must be forged through a genuinely people-driven, citizen-centered, and future-focused national process, one that draws upon the collective wisdom, experience, imagination, and aspirations of the Kenyan people, while remaining open to the very best ideas the world has to offer. It was in that spirit that I invited Professor Hiroyuki Hino, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, and their distinguished colleagues to begin examining Kenya's future beyond the Vision 2030. Last week, I had the honor of receiving their proposals on strategic guidelines for Kenya's long-term national transformation. The thrust of their proposal is both ambitious but also achievable. That Kenya can become a prosperous, high-income, industrialized, and globally competitive nation within one generation, provided we remain united in purpose, disciplined in execution, and unwavering in our commitment to long-term national transformation. These proposals provide the foundation for a much broader national conversation, a conversation that now belongs not to government, not to the authors of that report, but to every Kenyan. Fellow citizens, somewhere in Kenya tonight is a child too young to understand this address. Some may never remember Vision 2030. Others may never remember even this conversation, but they will live in the Kenya we choose to build. That is why this landmark national conversation is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It is about all of us, and also the generations that will inherit the republic we will leave behind. Our Constitution places public participation at the very heart of governance. It is therefore not merely my desire, but my constitutional duty to ensure that the national vision, which succeeds Vision 2030, is shaped through an inclusive, transparent, people-driven, and genuinely national process. Accordingly, on Wednesday, the 12th of August, 2026, we shall formally launch a national conversation on Kenya's future beyond Vision 2030, the most consequential exercise in national reflection and public participation since the promulgation of our Constitution in 2010. We shall bring together every institution of our republic, every county and every generation, leaders from political parties, the private sector, workers' organizations, faith communities, universities, professional associations, innovators, civil society, our creative industry, and above all, our young people will be at the center. In 2010, we gave ourselves a constitution worthy of our dreams. The task of our generation is to build a nation worthy of that constitution. We have secured the foundations of our democracy. Let us now secure the foundations of our prosperity. Fulfill what only the law of our constitution that Yes. Let us rise together. Right. That next chapter of our republic. Bless you all. Bless Kenya. And I thank you.
Morigereria bwensoko ine nkwana yomurai bwense Dr. William Samoei Ruto kurwase enyumba enene yomurai bwense somuchiyiga Nairobi ase akwanire nkwano igoro yabwatikaine nokuyarigania bwense ya Kenya nabo igo ayarengete ankyo yense ya Kenya asa kwanire amangana arengete gose abwatikaine na vision yo mwaka wechilifu ibere omwaka wechilifu ibere merongo etatu gose amarigani yense ya Kenya bosyo bugoswase omwaka wechilifu ibere merongo ebere netatu boigo ase nkwana yaye ase obotuko bwabono nigo aerere buna nigo ense ya Kenya gwikira boniga nigo uchumi yense ya tingire gwetera serikali akora serikali ya Kenya kwanza kuria sweta soburai aso mwaka wechilifu ibere merongo ebere na ebere abwega satebire na eshilingi yense ya Kenya nero gwikira boniga nigere ase aragia mono boigo ase nkwana yaye asobotuko bono nigo boigo akwanere na erio gosukabosyo na boigo koreta monchirerio imeyense gwikatoligereria ase twarure na bugwetera ase okoligererio okwo nigo egokonya koba ekiorokererio ase turuchi gochia bosyo boigo ase nkwane yaye nigo aerere buna nigo gwetera sali agendere tokorekana na boigo amaunchirerio ao nigo abaunchireri na boigo baria bakugika imeyense yetu ya Kenya nigo bono banyorire enseme togote bana no kwegena gose okwegena kweranire gochia ase bari bakwigika imeyense ya Kenya amange no chikwanyora chinsa isato chia bono botuko engakibora togusika mutwe elyo kwemanya ya sobotuko babona amange abarayikurwase ensemo yebunge yaburagwe county ya Nyamira nigo basokire na gukwanira igoro yokwendera kwira na magega kwa magendero yoko Roseri wachipara chirami ime yechibunge chionsi ime county ya Nyamira ukwana nabariki bamangana Amayia omubasorero ase chinsemo cha Nyangware ime yegwadi ya kiabanyo ensemo yebunge ya Burabu chief principal ya Riokindo Gerald Orina uyo ukorwanirira kurigia oburai bwebunge bose bwebunge ase ensemo yebunge yo ya Burabu nigo ateberenga nonyena ase ensemo yebunge ya Burabu nigo chipara chinyinge chiabere chigosareka mono kubwatikana n'oburai obwo butari oboronge bure kubwatia.
Development is one thing, especially in Nyamira County, both constituencies. There is no any road project, tarmac road project that is going on at the moment. Lakini goko enda chinsemo chinde okonyora chipara chikorosiwa. So the road network in Burabu and also in other constituencies in Nyamira, they are wanting ntuanya serikali ya so nturara paranya. So our leaders need to do more. Talents chi abana baitu is also a challenge. Nobody is supporting them. Ntubugati school, ntubugati team chigo chiesa national league athletics tuwarenge none askisi community n'abantu tobaraki abantu tuwarenga bakongusana asamangana athletics rero konyora athlete Eyemo bose babire iri rero tuwarenga iga senator na nyora senator Kibaso high school na ikibakaine na Chinche igabona bona natwarari yanda sana ese asabantu be Chinche kiyagera ya chali nere ya Bororo echo ega collapse abantu bane bagasira igo asa abantu baria asiki family kiri kyanyara konyora no gwakoko na ireli bageri koteba nga kuba pore yane ya bene na inde kuburia chinchini cyaito ekero project yego koruye skuru chinchini cyarigererira baliri gosineri kongurire construction yera nyare gokorwa bagaidi the contractor sajida tinto nyora ama kwikabira yugo kimutwe igo chinchini cyaito cye county na bonta geteko teba nga ekere project yego koruba to korro bakora feasibility study isaine erinde liontonyora ya chali muneri yabete
nigaba bwatani bechisemi ao basabire nga basire skuru ya senator ward ya township county ya Nyamira elio agendere kuimuka igoro magiga yogokoria bobe asigikege tambe gwika omwaka w'echili 2025 asiyeirete aborokyo batangani university aborokyo baringe emerongevere na babere bakwana lera somo yiga bwo kwena na ibyegwa nigo mwarimu monene we skuru eyo Richard Mobegi abolire skuru eyo ebasirwe kimagacho elio agendere gukina buna ebwenerete
Njesa Marieta ne nkoro kwa Richard Mobegi principal ya Senator Senior School na jitega igaji tariki 15 mukinyo gatano korwa sub county korwa Masaba North naende ekero na join die school ya Senator Kibaso ne school ere koru township ebwate abana chini ya 250 ne skuru ya jagete 1994 na CDF ya beiro ese miaka 32 ese miaka ya 35 okokora kwa nkora bakuya mono lakini ekara twaiko mwaka 2025 abana bakorete amatemo barenge 54 abo esa bana 22 banyorete chiniguta chingi ekikobaire university naende na abana babwatomukia gekogere birasi bya jagete 1994 ekenga buna mabati abege twagotire naganirie achenchigwe school egu facelift elinde abana banyare gutwara sagie bakobera naende bagosomera egento kende ne bwato kogania konene gekogera abana mboro bamenyete ime abara abana Eyemo na 35 babere abana abo chidomba bamenyete echire chinke chibwato bomugeku ande mumaite buna serikali ya lero machiko nare begete a safety abana babwenete komenya ese amasingira aramaya naende abwateri bagarigia ese bakorara igo kogania nkoro konene ukwagaja edomwe Eyemo yabamurane yende yabanyaruka elinda abana bamenyete ime banyore obwansu bwokobere skuru na koyanja gegarantoroche nga chiskuru abana karabata chianjeti okwanga kwabo gosangiba soire kolete megomo
Arenayo abamenyi bekenyoro kya Nyambogo ward ya Busamarense mu bunge ya West Mugrange county ya Nyamira nigo basabira mu bunge obo Steven Mugaka kubakonya kwirania transformer eyo yeritwe na KPLC asigika kimitinye tatobono ya itire bakwonekerekyo nigo batebirenga obwebi bw'ekimite cy'estima nigo bwagendere comment kana kubwatikana no gutaba kwe stima eyo transformer eyo nigo konya yabekirwa ase skuru yo boroso ya Nyambogo eyo konye ekubwatuka umuriro gukya sense mu bunge ya Masaba na West Mugirango.
Iriza Nyabuti eyo mandero ose Nyabuti omaliga ekenyolere jeito ga Nyambogo in fact twabeire omusunta matuka mange sana kesabaga tuburite transformer ya maegaga ya erirange mitinye tate migima kende nkeyo no ena asobe to kujaji jisimi atayo yoko yosiji tinga nabone tingerega yo mwana omito masira no tokanda twasera bona abantu bakanda pakikoro muino baji gosiororo abande bagenda pakakianu ngo muino baji gosiororo obuibi buka bwe transform yani bwe tikepo timita kiregento bwabeire bole igoro sana esauri tutabwa ati bona bamayitinga morero to no chaibi no ene kepo buneyo na mayitikende ngekora mwafiki kakyo kusaba kwitu nkolinga aseri ichumbe aso wanja kwao ntubona bagwisi mugirango paka ba mubwaterane n'engoko
Rieta nenje ni onyari makoli ekenyoro kia Nyambogo West Mugirango asomo gambio itori chumba liko gamba estima ya kaire tue transforme kairu korwa iga Nyambogo emetienye tato ya erire bono togo chikorosi chindagira togo tere kanse twanyo twata chirobo kimabori twaruga ntobwatie estima ese tokororero bo kimese twatereka nonya ne suguria togo chikoiyora gochia kwanyora kwatuo milio mwana suguria ya musamba kaki tware go sabari chumbe buna nche bachete abaibi bakangibere tura emita bono timbwati emite yinkororera sitima teiyo bwone igongo chikoyo ko ano ana bana bako ewo mugwaki koruchi sukuru mbari gosoma
Togo korragas obubi bwabeire bokorrekana ku system egenda amatoke tokoiberu chingoko toikoiberu noane chimita tuaetwe babeire bagotokiura abaibi ono mochi tware gosaba aso mweshimiwa Steve Mogaka lichumbe litokonye elinde tonyore transformer ya Nyambogo elinde tonyare konyora umuriro
Oburai bw'ekiama kia Jubilee nigo bwariganire ababwatani abayya abo baguche kurwanirira ebirogo ao bya gisiasa wetere kiama ekyo kure county ya Tana River korengana n'umunyakero bw'ekiama kia Jubilee Vincent Kemosi nigatebire getamu kerekyo ne kiyogotinya obokorero bw'ekiama ekyo asabo igo batebire no kwiremerie asichise mu chionsi imeyense na kwene kekero mu Kenya ngosirale Dr. Fred Matiang'i asiganga yaye yokobo murai bwense asobo chori obonene bwo mwaka w'echirefu 2025 na kabiri.
So this morning we have received them, and the deputy party leader before he received them officially in Jubilee Party. So from today they are now registered members of Jubilee Party, and we have agreed that from today onwards they are going to fly the Jubilee Party agenda, especially at the coast and the Tana River region. As you are aware, you are all aware that now we are almost now on the home stretch. Few days left to the general elections next year. In the next 1 or 2 weeks, we will be 1 year to the next general elections. Jubilee Party is prepared to go to the next general elections. You know, we have a candidate, Mr. Ensa, Okengo Matiang'i is our presidential candidate, and what we have now come up with, especially coming up or as a resolve from the NEC meeting that we had yesterday for the last 2 days, it was a roadmap we have come up with, that we have come with a work plan for the next 1 year.
In this Jubilee, we would like to call upon the cabinet minister or the cabinet secretary who called other Kenyans hyenas to come out and apologize and resign his position because he does not merit to be a CS in Kenya or in any other country. We are also calling upon the investigative agencies and the prosecution agencies to move with speed and arrest any Kenyan who is trying to divide Kenya through such unorthodox and abusive ways. The Kenyan people know what happened in 2007, 2008. It started the same way as we are seeing today. Kenyans have seen what happened in a country like Rwanda, where radios were used to insult tribes and what have you, and the aftermath is recorded in the world history. We don't want to go that way, and that is where we are going. As Jubilee, we are calling upon all leaders in government or in the opposition to come out and condemn. This country belongs to all of us. It belongs to our children, and you cannot ban it because we want to survive.
Semu yende oyo kurigekero kibo bunge bwensemu ye bunge ya Nyaribali chache Joseph Birundu oruro kubori guchiase oyo kabero mu bunge onyaribali chache Richard Tongi gutigarase kiama kya Jubilee na ryo barasukia maganyo nimerubiriye kiame kyobosyo ayo niga kiregekegeke magiga yichinkuma koranda muna Tongi guchiare kubwatirana no mugabana bwe county ya Kisii Paul Simbarati ase obochori bore bosyo
yarolekanire bono situikire eseye mutua 2027 mugusibwa NCP utogosororanga twali kubege ntekemo kirense yabwatani kiro monta kali kumusira so kiro monta kulise so yono iga mpaka tomo echinguru so that next year 2027 onyole nabwate nguru nono gwikaransa 20 tuikansa no opposition onyole nabwata abantu bamu aboro nturigo kwananga ntobwate chiguru kabisa ntobwate DCP ntobwate Wiper ntobwate Linda Mwananchi ntidode yo mubuzi yonde bwens ase decision ya bekiro bono iga into 20 mpaka tora abajubi okwane ku rujubiri nakio some of us tokonya gotebanga twasoroira abantu twale sabari na liala nyore chinguru ala nyare gwikiremeze ria sabantu bandi bakwana yo mosko ito moske buna Tongi okorire gaze matuka mange to supported ko 2013 we supported you 2017 2022 nje buna Brundo I supported you moske Tongi 2027 tiga gutanga ya Birundu narabu ngauje gondo marenga mapema wachakire komyo ira na nyomba gutokwanire gaiga Fred buna ko be president buna ko rwanya libali na orabo minister so bono egente kigego chigia 2027 esabali egwagete atuye yogo chikumirana na bali batatagete Fred ko omurayibu enseye tigakoragera nababisa ira na nyomba bangegas onyegogote banga ya igana butokori nomination Tongi ni nchungorokie jingo kobwa on support nande go kombona jingo support aje tiyo gocheroka uje kumirana abantu butuko abantu aye bachite bagasalia matanga ino amatanga y'umungino mino igasari tibwenjere mbe sana no itu abegetekere nando njoke butuko chikuri bituma na bire nande gwatia nitenga ala aliyere igorori erense bona bituma mwe kolinere you need to
saya bwatikene ne chigosori amatuka make magega ye klabu kya Mseta FC kubwatika bagosori gwetania 32 kurwase ekirabu ekyo nigo ritukoli ale klabu ekyo kyaliganirie kambi ya maigeri wa matindi bunenchire Eyemo yo kubarigia bagosori balia barachigokonya gutinye gekosi ge timu eyo bosibwe season enya omorokia bwe timu eyo ni gaene kiribuna eganga yaye no kubwege kombe kye ligi ya regionals as season egocha ekambi eyo ya matukabere nigo yachaka ritukoli alero nigo ereke omwerio litukolia nkyo buna umurikyo ito Daniel Mwaga agotumanya asobwime
emambia yeri tukolia Alhamisi kuregesero genkoyo ya BP imeyakawangware ekerabu kya Mseta FC inseyebora ibwe kerabu ekyo nigo kyaligania megeri ya matindi unenchere moyo gwasioli ebyegwa korwa asaba gosori ao barachigotume kwa gotinyage kosi ye kerabu ekyo bosio bwisoni enyegocha kokwana Eyemo aseyemo negataseni Ensoko TV omoroki abwe kerabu ekyo nigaene kiringa iganga yayene no gokora buya bosio bwisoni enyegocha.
Majina ni Coach Rama, head coach Mseto. Leo nimekuwa na trials preparing for the new season 26-27. Season yangu ya pili. Season ya kwanza nimeingia katikati na imeni unbalance kidogo. But nataka kuanza hii season mwanzo, aim yangu ni kuchukua hii kikombe hii region. Zone yangu hasa na I want to perform ni exceed hiyo namba 5 nilikuwa nayo, at least niweze be promoted to the next level. That is what I want.
Nonya ni gorama nigo abekira tene nibuna niga abwatokira abagosori abange korwase kerabu ekyo agwakorengana nere batarenge komokonya asencherende yonsi.
Katika kila timu kulikuwa na clear out. Nilikuwa na wachezaji wengi sana ambao pia walikuwa wanisaidii. Alafu pili nilikuwa nataka kumake room so that this naweza nika improve team kwa sababu nilipoingia kwa team niliwapata wengi niliwapata. Signings zangu hapo ni wachache na wengi wale nimewapata retain. Wale ambao nimeingia na wao. So naweza sema nimetoa watu ambao nimebakisha watu ambao filosofia yangu wanaweza wakaicheza.
Omotenani we klabu ekyo amono mokonyo ye nigobana kiabuna amegeria yuni gakorekana sencherengia asebono barekana ko kerumbar wabasabe sokia ilio wekana amegeria jo ya matukabere.
My name is Eunice Kerubo. First team manager of Mseto, and we are here today for trials. This is our first day. We are having it for 2 days, leo na kesho, and so far so good. The turn up imekuwa so good. For those who registered ndo wamekuja, and it's all great. We have to sign because ukiangalia team kama Ruthimitu will be coming to regionals, and we're going to have a tough derby. Ruthimitu versus Mseto yenye nakwaga na emotions, my feelings, and it's going to be a hard one.
Kwa majina naitwa Glenn Odhiambo Miruga. Mimi ndo TM manager wa Mseto. Shughuli ambayo imetuleta hapa ni trials ambayo tumekuwa nayo kutoka saa 3 asubuhi na saa hii ni saa 7:30 inaisha. Tumefanya trial poa, trial imeenda poa kabisa. Teams zimetokea, vijana wametokelezea hapa wafanye trial zao ili waingie Mseto.
Ase ensemo yaye omokonyi bomo captain wekerabu ekyo nigaene kyakora bagosoria abayegiata gati yabali abekerane asamegerio abwe barakonye gosira na konyoria machibwa amaya asekerabu ekyo kya Mseto FC.
My names are George Odhiambo, goalkeeper, currently playing for Mseto. I'm the vice captain of Mseto. Currently mona some potentials. Nimeona kuna watu wakikuja watu join wawili watatu. Vile aim yetu hii season ni kubeba regionals itakuwa.
Eke na kiegesero gia tumekrimnera tiri yokubapima bagosoria abanyie kere klabu gia Mseto FC baregokora chitro situ kuyalero eriko lya bagosoria abanyi bali bara ichigo ichureli bagali bali basokire unenchire Eyemo gwepanga season yenyi season yegocha yo mwaka w'ekibengebe5 mogiko mwaka w'ekibengebe5 onebere anene ekarbalingete gotira kuri ligi regionals gwikase ligi area ya division 2 abagosori bali aba uchikwena chirengasi nabo igokenya lali bagali gosose klabu eke niko barasose kambi ya megerio anene kere klabu eke kendrete kuyoroberia season yenyu egocha. Yinka ripoti regete seni gia Soko TV korogaiga asegesero gia BP Kawangware ensemo yebunge ya Dagoretti South county ya Nairobi ireterane igonkoro kwa Daniel Omwaga
Weterase horoboti ororwe chigosori rwanigani wa amo no muriketu Daniel Omwaga na otwekera omwere ase obotiko bwabona mayase yensa Eyemo ase nchira yubwekera no chinsa isato ningirane na yanda mange gendera kubwatya murobere kubwati gweka chinsa isato eriane Ishmael Mogera.